belong. We know that communities of difference in our county often intersect and overlap, which can compound and exacerbate the challenges faced by these communities. It's incumbent upon all levels of government. Of course, Mike and I here represent municipal, but it is incumbent upon all levels of government to create space for communities like the 2S LGBTQIA+ to not just exist in our home, in our community, but to flourish, to thrive, and to be valued community members who belong. Performative actions that don't lead to real, tangible impacts are just that, theater. And while Michael and I love a good performance, capitalizing on pride to look good or check a box or make a profit is unacceptable. It's not what we're here for today. Without backfilling the words and rainbows with meaningful action, we fail the people that deserve the best from their representatives. So we strive in the county and in the towns in the county to be a safe place, a safe county, and our strategy of belonging, which you all should go and read, will facilitate us in getting there. So thank you for being here. And at this point, we are going to have the singing of the national anthem and the pride song. And then Mike's going to take it away and introduce our first speaker.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Let's do it.
All right.
Get ready for O Canada.
To the dark, hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. For the birds wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown a mind. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Great, I get to follow that. That's awesome. Wow. What am I doing? Okay. Sorry, that was very overwhelming. Thank you very much for that. That's fun. My theme song. The first thing I'm going to do. Hi, I'm Mike Butler, everybody. I'm going to go through our external organizations that are being represented here today. And I first of all want to give you a big thank you for coming and being a part of this event. The town of Berwick, the town of Wolfville, the town of Kentville, all County of Kings MLAs, Wolfville Area Pride Group, Central Kings Rural High School Gay Pride Alliance, Annapolis Valley Regional Center of Education, Eason's Transport Group, Valley African Nova Scotian Development Association, 14 Wing Royal Canadian Air Force, County of Kings Museum, Nova Scotia Health Community Health Boards, Kings Transit, and Rewind Radio. Thank you very much for being here. Our first speaker today is Mike Woolette, Supervisor of Student Equity at AVRCE, who's going to discuss the importance of allyship for the social well-being of 2S LGBTQ plus community members. If you would like to come up and speak to us, Mike, that'd be fantastic. Big round of applause.
Didn't realize I was going to be first. It's a little nerve-wracking, especially when you haven't done something like this in close to 2 years. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, guests from the schools, from our communities, from municipalities and towns. My name is Mike Woolette. I'm the Supervisor of Student Equity and School Support Services for the region, at least for another month or so, and I head off to Gaspereau Valley Elementary to go do some work on the ground there for the next 3, 5, 10 years as I go back to school and doing something that I love as a former school principal. My pronouns are he and him. I'd like to extend my thanks for the invitation to attend this event and bring both greetings and gratitude on behalf of AVRCE. The gratitude is for the support and the collaboration the municipality consistently brings to our schools, our regions, our students, our families, and communities we all serve. I think of our work at this level as being more about the creation of organizational alliances, engaged in endeavors that are tremendously beneficial to those we serve, our students. Like many of you, I'm often on the front lines of defending the work we do to support Pride Week and other celebrations and education initiatives. And I'm often grateful that in part of my messaging to those folks who want to challenge us, that I can turn to our municipal, public sector, and military partners to say this celebration of Pride happens throughout our communities and has the overwhelming support of staff, families, students, and the community. So please accept my sincere thanks for standing with us shoulder to shoulder in defending the rights of the Pride community and the ability for us to provide an increasingly safe environment for students. I've thought a lot about allyship in the past few weeks since being invited here. I could expound on the big picture work we do in schools, Pride Week, professional development for staff, guest speakers, resources for our students, GSA work. That list goes on, and it's really important and does help to improve the well-being of students and promotes a safe and accepting and engaging learning environment for all students. But for a moment, if you'll indulge me, I want to take a moment to focus on the small things we never see or hear about, the actions and words that are not recognized necessarily in public ceremonies like these. Like the school who welcomed a child in gender non-conforming dress as they registered for school. They were raised in an environment where they felt safe enough to do that, and now our work is to surround them with allies to ensure they always do. or the student who has overheard a teacher address a homophobic slur instead of ignoring it. Now that student knows a space and an adult that are safe and supportive. Or the guidance counselor that sat with the student as they come out to their parents, helping to build a shared path of compassion and love. Or the teacher who creates a bulletin board on their classroom that celebrates queer authors. It's the rainbow sticker or trans flag sticker on the door of the principal in a large high school. It is the referee who shuts down and consequences anti-trans slurs and insults when a young trans girl steps on the ice with their hockey team for the first time. This is the real work of allyship, and it is incredibly important. Our 2S LGBTQ+ students face more violence and face more risk than any other students in our system. These small acts of allyship help reduce the risk, and their cumulative impact helps to shape an environment where students can feel safe and secure in their identity and live a fulfilling life in our classrooms, our hallways, and in the community that loves and supports them. Allyship is not easy. And so just from the little experience and surface experience that I have some advice from the things that I've learned. Respect and amplify first voices. Don't rely on what you think you know about the environment you live and work in and how it may or may not reflect the needs of our 2S LGBTQ+ community. Lean in and listen. They have something to say and we need to be open and accepting. Recognize and leverage your privilege in whatever way you can empower you to do this work. As a white, cisgendered, upper-class person of European descent, I have the most privilege and the greatest responsibility to do more and be more to tear down the barriers to keep our students from completely fulfilling themselves securely in who they are. Never stop learning. Our understanding must evolve if we are to be completely engaged in this work. So it is important to read, watch, and listen to the community as they teach us about themselves and help us deepen our understanding of what they need. And to echo comments earlier, don't be performative. Everyone can wear a button, change their Facebook profile image, fly the pride flag. We can all virtue signal. That's easy, but it means nothing if you are not actively confronting your privilege and taking on the bigotry and violence that the community faces. Speak up in your own circles, with your family, your friends, and ensure they understand you will not accept derogatory language, behavior, or attitudes. Expect discomfort. You are stepping into a world that you do not completely understand, and it is difficult to change. Learning to declare my pronouns wasn't comfortable at first, but I learned it made others feel safe in my presence. And learn from your mistakes. I once used the word lifestyle in speaking about 2S LGBTQ+ community at an equity conference early in my career, and I knew better. But it spoke to my ingrained bias and the growing I had yet to do, and I was rightfully challenged and never used it again. And lastly, and most importantly, show up everywhere, not just here at events like this, in your home, in your place of work, in your places of worship, in your towns and communities. Show up and provide courageous and outrageous love that our 2S LGBTQ+ community desperately and deservedly needs. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Mike. Mike and I both are teary. You picked two criers to host
Yeah,
this event, so
Not good.
it might be a long
Not-
morning,
no,
folks.
Yeah,
We should have requested Kleenex here.
thank you very much. This isn't working.
So next up, and I mean, school just looks so much different. I mean, Mike and I are both very young in our 20s,
Yeah.
and school looks a lot different now, I think, than it did when we went there just a
Does it
few
ever?
short years ago.
Does it ever?
So next up, we're having Pat Nixon come up, the chair of the Kingston Greenwood Community Health Board, and she's speaking about the importance of family support for the community members. So come on up. There we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops.
Can everybody hear me okay? Cool. Good day. My name is Pat Nixon. My pronouns are he, him. I am a chairperson of the Kingston Greenwood Community Health Board and a proud father of two very wonderful adult children. A son, Rory, and Ashley, whose preferred pronouns are they, them, theirs. My wife, Patty, and I are parents who, like most parents, deeply love and support our children and have tried to do the best we can over the years. In the summer of 2000, we were moved by the military from Greenwood to Edmonton. It was around this time that we began to have a sense or feeling that Ashley was not like the girls they had developed close friendships with. We learned years later, when she came out, that Ashley had this sense too, and were experiencing feelings that they did not fully understand and could not define. Ashley was a grade 5 at the time. What do you do as parents? Do we ask Ashley about their gender identity? Did she even know it yet? Or sexuality? Do we have the talk? We took a more subtle approach and chose to provide indirect support and encouragement to Ashley. We ensured that the environment at home was not toxic, non-toxic, or derogatory towards gay and lesbian persons seen on TV, in the movies, in the community, or in general conversation. We strove to be accepting and non-judgmental. We wanted Ashley to be able to come to terms about who they may be on their own time. This continued through Ashley's middle school years in Edmonton and their high school years when we moved back to Greenwood in 2006, where they began to further understand their gender identity. During these two time periods, Ashley tried having 2 boyfriends, and that didn't last long. Moving on to St. Mary's University in 2009 and being freer to explore their gender identity, Ashley began to have relationships with other persons identifying as 2S LGBTQ+, or on the same journey of exploration as they were. They were covert, but in our hearts, we knew, even though Ashley had not come out yet, we knew. But we wanted to leave it up to her to come to us at her own time. Ashley had to be comfortable with who they were, and we ensured that our actions always left the door open for Ashley to grow into whom they became. Ashley had to be comfortable outing themselves when they wanted to, when the time was right for Ashley, not for us, not for anyone else, but for them. Our job was to create a welcoming path for this to happen, not to define when it would happen, or worse, deny their identity. Ashley came out to us as a lesbian in 2012. How? Just before a large family Easter dinner with relatives and her friend present. Literally, Ashley came over and said, "Dad, I'm a lesbian." And that's how it happened. My reaction? I said, "Okay, about time you told us, pass the potatoes," or words to that effect. Okay? No surprise there, no shock, just acceptance, just love, period. As Ashley continued to explore their gender identity, they eventually identified as non-binary, and that's just happened a few months ago. And getting used to using her pronouns after 31 years is interesting. Ashley came out on their own terms and at a time of their own choosing with our full support. Sadly, not all 2S LGBTQ+ youth and young adults experience the support, acceptance, and understanding they need to come to terms with who they are. Could we have done things differently? Perhaps. Could we do things differently going forward? Perhaps. Did we have missteps along the way? Yes. But love and acceptance overcame all. Does it matter that your child may be gender fluid, non-binary, or cisgender? Does who your child is define who you are? Should you be ashamed of who they are? The answer is unequivocally no. Providing non-judgmental supports, safe spaces, and environments are important to the 2S LGBTQ+ youth and young adults. The most important thing a family can do is openly show unconditional acceptance so our children can feel comfortable coming out on their own terms. And how you define a family depends on the family. It can be a community as well. As parents, family, and caregivers, we would never knowingly put our children in harm's way or cause them trauma. Yet, by not being supportive of our 2S LGBTQ+ children, we put them at significantly higher risk for adverse mental health outcomes, higher levels of depression, suicide ideation, substance use abuse, isolation, and risk of being bullied and abused than their heterosexual peers. We need to be able to talk openly and be receptive of our child's gender identity to our social circles. Welcome their 2S LGBTQ+ friends, be non-judgmental, and accepting of how they choose to express their gender identity. We need to be as comfortable with their community as we expect them to be within our heterosexual community or the broader community. We need to be their best and strongest advocate. We need to be their ally. Accept our children for who they are. Be respectful of their chosen pronouns, not only when they are around, but perhaps more importantly, when they are not. Accept the fact that you will make mistakes. I still make mistakes. Accept correction in the spirit is given, correct as you go, and move on. Not making the attempt to use their child's or their friend's proper pronouns is simply disrespectful and dismissive of their identity. When you know better, you do better. Love is unconditional. Love followed by a but is not unconditional love. Love is love. We should never define someone by their characteristics, but by who they are as persons. Today, Ashley, at 31 years of age, is a proud, assertive, strong, resilient, and well-respected young adult in a thriving, loving relationship with her partner, Brooke. Ashley is a fine role model for others, including to us LGBTQ+ community. Ashley has degrees in criminology and social work and is the new assistant dean of residence life at the University of King's College in Halifax. She rocks. We are proud to be Ashley's parents, and being a part of Ashley's journey has made us better. Love is love. Thank you very much.
You can follow that.
What? I just said, okay, fun.
I will say before we move on, I use she, her pronouns.
I am he, him pronouns. So thank you for,
We've learned.
we've learned.
When you know better, you do better.
Our next speaker is Robert French, the CAO from Vansda, with remarks on behalf of African Nova Scotian communities. So
Welcome, Robert.
welcome, Robert. Come on up.
You always give me the toughest people to follow, don't you? I don't always do that. First of all, I'd like to open with my recognition that we are on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseet peoples. This alone is a simple statement, but its meaning is so much more. Let's be real, though. To build a truly welcoming community, we must all recognize we are starting from a position that it has not been welcoming for anybody other than a very select few. That truth is widespread in terms of its impact on people, families, youth, basically all the aspects of what we deem as essential for building a welcoming community. How did we go down this path? That's a question we must each ask of ourselves. If someone had told me at a younger age, we'd be gathered here in the municipal government building to recognize the aspirations of our friends, neighbors, children, I, like many others, would have said it would never happen. Yet here we are, having made known the land upon which I stand as a person of African descent, providing comments at a pride recognition function. We must truly have made some progress. To this I say, congratulations, and look forward to meeting the goals that we all strive to achieve. That is a truly welcoming Kings County community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Next up, we have Deputy Mayor Kate Savage, who's bringing remarks on behalf of the town of Kentville.
Come on up, Kate. Woo!
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Savage, and I identify as she, her, and the Deputy Mayor for the town of Kentville. And I'm very, very pleased to be here this morning and to bring greetings on behalf of Mayor Snow and the town of Kentville. What a privilege to take part in an important event like this. You know, this month is a time for each and every one of us to consider other viewpoints, other opinions, choices. And it's a time for us to learn and to open our hearts and our minds. And so let's all strive to be compassionate and open. Pride Month stands for love. being able to love yourself, and being able to love whomever you wish to love. Gay pride, or LGBTQ2S+ pride, is the promotion of the self-affirmation, dignity, equality, and increased visibility of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, such as the social group. Pride, as opposed to shame and social stigma, is the predominant outlook that bolsters most LGBTQ2S+ rights movement. We've seen remarkable progress, but we have a long ways to go. Let's continue to break down the barriers and build strong relationships with one another. I'd like to end with a quote from a Canadian icon that I love, Elliot Page. This world would be better. This world would be a whole lot better if we just made an effort to be less horrible to one another. Thank you very much.
Just going to carry Kleenex all day long now. Thank you very much, Kate, for those words. Next up, I have no idea who this is. I'm just kidding. I would like to bring up the Deputy Mayor for the town of Wolfville, Isabel Madeira Voss, to give some few words on behalf of the town of Wolfville. Come on up.
Welcome, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Butler and Deputy Mayor Litz, and thank you for inviting me to this event. As Councillor Butler said, my name is Isabel Madeira Voss, and I'm the Deputy Mayor of the town of Wolfville, and I just want to express my gratitude for this event and for the opportunity for us to gather to celebrate Pride Month. I know that all of our communities and our organizations and our families are going to have special events throughout the entire month. But I think it's particularly important that we gather collectively the way we are here today to affirm, confirm, express both our support and our commitment for the progress that has been made since the 1970s, and our commitment to continue to advance that progress, because we still do have a lot of work to do. I was actually going to start by saying that my pronouns are she, her, and that's the first time I've ever said that. And I wanted to thank you for your talk this morning about your family pack, because I was very moved by your comments. I've been very moved by all the comments that have come before me. I think this has been a remarkable event. And I know that Councillor Ingham is here with me, as well as Councillor Butler. We will take many of these messages back to Wolfville to share. And so thank you for the invitation and for organizing this event, Municipality of County of Kings. And I will leave it at that. Thanks.
Mike, do you know why Pride Month is in June?
I thought you were actually saying a joke. No. I was like, I didn't know it was joke time. That's not on my agenda. Why it is in June?
Yeah, do you know why it's in June?
You're asking the person that celebrates it every day of the year. So I do not know. Tell me, Emily, why is it in June?
I think it's worth noting that Pride was as a result in June of the Stonewall riots. And right, surprise.
Very
and can often be attributed to a Black trans woman, Martha P. Johnson.
Yes.
And so we should acknowledge her today as well. And another thing the Deputy Mayor said that really resonated with me was that it's really nice to be celebrating today as a collective and being together. And it makes it so much more meaningful when you can literally feel the love kind of radiating out of your neighbor. I'm getting a lot of love from this guy right here. So
it's the thing I do.
So next we're going to welcome the Mayor of Berwick, Mr. Don Clark, up to the podium to give remarks on behalf of Berwick. And he also radiates a lot of love.
Yeah.
Don, so.
Come on up.
Chairs, Mayor Matart, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to represent the town of Berwick here this morning. And I too want to thank you especially the organizer of this event, for the wonderful message so far. I have a very simple message, and I thought maybe it would get trampled before this time, but I don't think it has. A shout out to Mr. French for mentioning municipal government. But I would like to thank Mayor Matart for inviting us all to come together for this very important event. And I want to thank Kenesha Gordon, and I suspect a team, for this wonderful program. It's truly amazing. I bring greetings from the town of Berwick, where we held a flag raising ceremony on June the 2nd. We were so pleased to be joined by members of the Berwick School Gay Straight Alliance, who added some youthful energy and enthusiasm. It's so important to have young people involved, and it's nice to see young people here today. I'm also pleased to see representation from the towns of Kentville, Kate, Wolfville, Isabel. It's important that the municipalities of Kings are represented along with MLA Irving and MLA Chris here today. It's so important to and appropriate that we stand together as we celebrate diversity and encourage inclusion. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm getting all the Wolfle based ones. It's like I see all these people there all the time. But I get to bring up the Honorable Keith Irving, MLA for King South, to say a few remarks for us. Keith, come on up, please.
Thank you very much, Mike, for the introduction, and Emily. And it's just it's great to see everyone here. I'm Keith Irving, he, him, and I'd like to thank the organizers, Kenesha and others, for bringing together everyone today. It's I thought, boy, there's a lot of speakers there, but I think what I've heard is I've learned more and more from every speaker that's gotten up, and so I think that's why this should be such a large event. Pride Month is always a time full of smiles, but I learned today that it also can be filled with a few tears from our guests here, and those are tears from the heart, and I think important to recognize. It's great to see everyone here after 2 years of not seeing folks. Some people behind masks I don't even recognize anymore. But MLA Chris Palmer and Mayor Mutard, Mayor Clark, Deputy Mayor Lutz, Mayor Savage, Deputy Mayor Savage. Promotions are coming later. Deputy Mayor Madeira Voss, and I see Councillor Hurdle here, Councillor Ingham, Councillor Killam, Councillor Windsor, Councillor Meisner, who I just met. Great to meet you. And Robert French, great to see you again. And everyone that's here, and especially those young people up there with those colorful masks. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, the irrepressible Mike Butler, who, if there is a rainbow anywhere in the valley, Mike is close by with a wide grin from ear to ear. So reflecting on Pride, three things come to mind for me. This is a celebration of diversity, how we are stronger as a community when we are diverse. Our community is rich by the immigrant community, by the African Nova Scotian community, the Mi'kmaq community, and why we're celebrating here today the 2S LGBTQ plus community. It's also a time to reflect on what Pride means. At the recent Pride flag raising in Wolfville, I reflected on both the words of a world leader and of a local leader. A few years ago, Hillary Clinton at the UN during a speech on Human Rights Day declared, "Gay rights are human rights." And just the other day, Mike Butler wrote some words for Mayor Donovan, and I hope I'm not stealing his speech. I did tell him I was going to quote him, but the words were, "Pride season highlights the importance of inclusion and respect, and of creating safe spaces for persons of diverse sexual orientations and gender identity and expressions to be their most authentic self. And those words struck me, to be your most authentic self. And think for a moment, as part of our journey in life, everyone in this room seeks to find our authentic self. If not during our younger years, we do it throughout our journey of life. So if we are not our authentic self, then we are truly not free to be human. To live in a truly free and democratic society, each and every one of us must be free to be our authentic selves. Pride reminds us of this important aspect of each of our lives. Thirdly, pride is also a time to reflect and celebrate how far we have come. We have come a long way in the 2S LGBTQ rights and acceptance in our communities. The small pride parades of the 70s are now replaced with huge community celebrations that fill our streets across the country. Gay marriage is a right. In our legislature, we not only have Mr. Speaker and Madam Deputy Speaker, we now have mixed Deputy Speaker. That's Lisa LaChance, our gender diverse MLA from Halifax Citadel. It's day to day in the legislature. But there is so much more work to do. We cannot take progress for granted. We can see to the south, our neighbors to the south, that the rights of women and 2S LGBT community members are now threatened. We can't take this progress for granted. We must continue to work to break down hate and ensure that everyone in our community can be our authentic selves. So during Pride Month, let's continue as a society to stand up for 2S LGBTQ plus rights. Call out hate and bigotry. Celebrate the strides gained by the LGBTQ plus members of our community. And celebrate how our communities are stronger, richer, more free and democratic because of the 2S LGBTQ plus family, friends, and neighbors that we share this beautiful valley with here in Kings County. Happy Pride Month, everyone. There are rainbows in the sky every day this month. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you, MLA Irving. We're holding it together up here, folks. It's okay. Next up, we have representatives from 14 Wing Greenwood. We have Lieutenant Colonel Josh Christensen here. I believe, do we have Brendan Cook as well, or just, okay, perfect. So we have Lieutenant Colonel Josh Christensen coming up talking about the importance of intentional inclusion, of the 2S LGBTQ plus Canadians who are serving our community through the Royal Canadian Armed Forces. And we know that 14 Wing is a huge part of our community here in Kings County, so we're really thankful that you're here with us today. Come on up.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me here today. After following up all those previous acts, I'm not sure what I can really say that hasn't already been said so eloquently, profoundly, or personally. Thanks, Pat, for your story. I had a number of things I wanted to say, but I think most of the thunder I was hoping to pass on has already been stolen. First of all, I'm going to pass on regrets from Colonel Cook, who couldn't be here today. He really wanted to be in attendance. Both himself and the Wing Chief Foreign Officer placed significant priority on the importance of LGBTQ plus issues and contributions, encouraging the Wing to embrace a much more positive and inclusive space. And that's something that seems very consistent, obviously, with the message here today, a community where all people belong. And that's precisely what 14 Wing and the RCF aim for, is ultimately we are an extension or a seamless part of our local communities. Pride season has already been touched on, is an opportunity to celebrate to us LGBTQ plus inclusion and really embrace the rich diversity that those communities bring and recognize the contributions of our colleagues towards the betterment of Canada. The RCF and Greater Defence Team place great importance on recognizing that importance of diversity, to which our to us LGBTQ plus community plays a significant part. With diversity in all of its forms, whether that's as discussed today, whether that's cultural, diversity in all of its forms brings great resilience, great versatility, and strength. Within the Air Force, diversity, equity, inclusion serve to strengthen our institution. But when we can come together for an event like today, where you get to celebrate it with the local community, with all the various stakeholders, that collective strength that it brings, has already been touched on, is far greater than its separate parts, and collectively allows us to foster a much more vibrant and compassionate society. And for that, I'm very thankful. It should be noted, as it already been touched on, virtue signaling should not be permitted, nor should we set or prioritize this promotion of these values just to 1 month a year or select days. It's only if we continually foster an environment of mutual respect, dignity, and inclusion that people are fully empowered to contribute fully as their authentic selves, as was just touched on. So I won't reiterate too much on that. The RCF and 14 Wing have put considerable effort into recognizing the contributions of those who identify as 2S LGBTQ+. But it's also important to recognize past challenges, as was just discussed as well. While Pride season is filled with optimism, celebration, and love, it's also a time to reflect on past struggles, discrimination, and barriers, to which the Canadian Armed Forces is no stranger. We've had our own history of struggles. 14 Wing is committed to recognizing this and taking the opportunity to learn and educate. And that's something I'd encourage from everyone here is don't just brush those aside. Don't forget about them. Don't try to ignore them. It's an opportunity to learn and educate, to appreciate those challenges, and to extract the lessons learned to do better in the future. I know myself, having recently commemorated both the Transgender Day of Remembrance and the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, and having had a chance to directly interact with those who experienced absolutely some horrendous challenges in the past. I've taken a lot away from that, myself identifying as an ally, and I feel like I've learned a lot from those experiences. So 14 Wing, we're proud to be a part of this continued evolution towards a more positive space, and more importantly, doing so as part of the local, provincial, and broader Canadian community. You'll see the Pride flag proudly flying at the front gate, and Wing members and leadership participating in a multitude of upcoming Pride events, and we look very forward to doing so, very excited to be an active participant in those. And we're proud to be part of a community that embraces these important core values, and sincerely look forward to working alongside all of you to continue building a community where all people belong. Thank you.
So important to recognize when we haven't been perfect, and laying out a map going forward to how we can improve. And I think that applies to all organizations. So thank you for those important words.
Thank you very much. Up next is MLA Chris Palmer to say a few words. Come on up, Chris.
And I should say he's on behalf
of Minister John Lohr
as well.
Yes.
They're here as a team, one in person and one in our hearts.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Emily. And it's so good as someone else in their 20s. It's so good to see so many young people here today. But it's a privilege and an honor to be here this morning. I'm here on behalf of our government and our Premier Tim Houston, who sends his best wishes and greetings for a wonderful Pride Month, and he extends thanks to all those who are participating and are organizing many of the events. I am also here to bring regrets on behalf of Minister John Lohr, my friend from Kings North, who was planning to be here this morning. He has been called to Ministers' Conference in Ottawa, so he does extend his regrets and again, best wishes for the events that will be coming up here in this month. In the spring, I had the privilege of standing in the House of Assembly and speaking on a piece of legislation that our government brought through called an Act to Dismantle Hate and Racism. And very thankful that that was an act that was unanimously passed in our House. And it was something that it's always an honor to speak in the legislature
but to speak about this topic was something that was truly humbling. And I do recognize, and I mentioned this in my comments in the House, I do recognize the place of privilege that I come from. And that's important to recognize that. And this morning, I've learned so much from so many of you speakers who've been here. I also recognize, and I was able to mention that many of you have been on this journey for a long time. And some of us haven't been on this journey. And, one thing that I want everybody to know is we're really want to be part of this journey with you going forward. And you're very welcoming to people who would like to jump in and participate with you. So I thank you for that. June is a time to celebrate the progress towards greater equality that's been made, but it's also a time to mourn those who've been lost, the voices still not heard, and recognize the obstacles the community has had to overcome and still face in the fight for equality. The fundamental rights of two-spirit, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, plus Nova Scotians have been hard won and should never be threatened or diminished. And yet, the fight for equality continues in many parts of the world, including Canada. Our government is committed to supporting gender diverse communities and to promoting fundamental rights. We acknowledge the need to challenge the systemic barriers and inequalities in healthcare, in workplaces, in our communities, and I want you to know that our government will work with communities across this province to break down all of these barriers. One place that we're doing work right now is in healthcare. Our Action for Health plan, our plan to fix healthcare, commits as an overarching principle to address barriers in the system for 2S LGBTQ+ community and other equity-seeking groups, and to improve the system for those both working in and served by it. In our first budget this spring, we created a refundable tax credit equal to 40% of the total cost of fertility treatments and for surrogacy-related medical expenses. I'm happy to say Nova Scotia is the first province in Canada to provide this kind of support for surrogacy. We did this to support 2S LGBTQ+ community members who want to start a family and had previously had no option but to pay the full cost. We understand there's much more work to do to ensure our systems are inclusive and to create a community of communities where all people truly belong. Our government will work alongside you in all of our communities to see that this vision is realized. To close, I'll echo the words I hear our Premier speak and resonates in our party and in our government, that no matter the color of your skin, your gender, who you love, the language you speak, or how you pray, there is a home for you in this province. So I again ask you to join with all of us, and I look forward to getting involved in this journey with you as we move forward. And let's work together to make this province one where people truly belong. And before I end, I would just like to mention that I'm very touched by the comments made this morning, and words that I've written down is together, love, understanding, diversity, compassion. These aren't just buzzwords. And I take that to heart. And I just want you to know that these are words that I will truly, personally like to live by. And I hope our communities in our government institutions, we can do the same. So again, thank you very much for the invitation to Kenesha. Thank you for the invitation. And it's wonderful to have been part of this program with you this morning. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, MLA Palmer. Thank you for being here with us. Oh my gosh, who's next?
The moment you've all been waiting for.
It's my pleasure, before Mike starts, to introduce one of my favorite people on the planet, someone I'm extraordinarily blessed to call a friend and colleague, someone who brings a spark of joy in every single room he enters, and whom I love dearly.
Is it? I'm supposed to introduce Peter.
No. Those things also apply to Mayor Matard. But it's actually you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you.
So take it away. I can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I wrote everything down. I can make it through my own words. It's everyone else's words I haven't been able to make it through, so I think I'll be okay. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for your support and contribution within your municipalities and your organizations during Pride Month and beyond. My name is Mike Butler, man about town, person about town, to correct myself. Ladies and gentlemen, I am born in Kentville, but I'm a Wolfalite through and through. I attended KCA, the old KCA, from grades primary to 12. I've lived in Wolfville now for almost 20 years, and I am halfway through my first term as a Wolfville Town Councillor. I dabble in theater and in journalism and in tourism, but I'm here to speak today as a proud member and advocate for the 2S LGBTQA+ community. I want to applaud you all on however you say however many letters. It's all okay. I can't keep up. So just representing the community and your words has been fantastic. I say I'm a member of the community. There was no application process. It just sort of happened. But member sounded better than associate or affiliate, so that's the word that I use. I am the G in the 2S LGBTQA+ community, and over the years, even in my, thank you Emily for 20, but I'm going to tell you now it's been 43 years that I have been a member of this community, because it's since birth and has evolved. It's changed in so many ways that I can't even barely keep up. I'm going to talk a little bit about where I came from, when I came out, why I came out, and why I've never gone back in. I grew up in a small town with well-known parents, attending a small public school, and I was gay from the earliest memory. My journey has been, to the surprise of many, overwhelmingly amazing and positive, from those early days in Kentville to eventually moving to Wolfville. I've been very blessed. Growing up, my home was filled with nothing short of the best that I could have asked for: love, health, happiness, food, family, comfort, discipline, order, fun, and so much more. I was taught patience and the ability to listen to others. I was taught that words, whether spoken or written, are the most powerful things we have. Use them wisely. Mom and dad were hard workers, very prominent in the community, and I was taught not to be afraid of the public. We're all human. And then at 13, I discovered that I was a little different than practically all my school community and those around me. I was gay. Uh-oh. Looking back and using a fine line of stereotype and assumption, I was a very clean, neat, polite child who liked order, color, the arts. I was friends with everyone, girls, guys, a social butterfly who played with He-Man figures and G.I. Joes. But for some reason, my action figures, instead of fighting wars, went on weekend getaways in my sister's Barbie camper. And I asked myself repeatedly, are you sure, Mike? Are you sure you're gay? Are you, like, how do you really know? The answer was the same every time. I knew what I was attracted to. I knew what I wasn't attracted to. I knew inside something was different, and I watched a lot of movies. I knew what was going on. And when I realized it for myself, I realized I now have to deal with this on my own time. High school, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. For me, it was fantastic. I'm so blessed to be able to say that, and it's totally honest. I might be the wrong person to be standing up here to discuss lived experiences, but if you ask any of my high school friends today, they will tell you that I am the exact same person today that I was back then. And that makes me feel very happy, because I didn't change for them, and I didn't change. I'm the same. In terms of my humor, my disposition, my sass, my demeanor. Was I out in high school? No. Did I act differently to hide who I was? No. My graduating class of 52 was a tight group. Most of us have been together since grade primary. Most of us are still in Nova Scotia and the Valley, and that sense of tight-knit community, regardless of what they identified as, has followed me everywhere. At KCA, there was no internet, no cell phones, no drama course. There was no gay-straight alliance group. And from what I remember, there were no gay people. At least not out gay people. I lived in the moment, and the time I have I've watched the school system evolve incredibly over the years. I believe in the process. I believe we can be the change, but the change is not overnight. Thank you to those schools and their administrations that support Pride Month, create GSAs and support groups within their schools. Kids and youth today have much more to deal with than I did in terms of identity, sexuality, and it's tough to not know yourself or know whom around you will support you. Parents used to come to me about their kids and I would say, create a supporting environment and love them. And with that kind of home and safe space, they will eventually come to you when they're ready to. And that's the only advice I've really ever given to parents is just create the atmosphere that will make comfort. Let's jump to 2002. I moved to Wolfville, all was well. I was now out. Everything was great. Life was fun. Rainbows were everywhere. I knew at the age of 10, Wolfville was going to be my home. And I was very fortunate to live for the first 14 and a half years in the basement apartment of then Mayor Bob Stead and his partner, Danny. I learned so much about the town, politics, movers, shakers, the community, the relationship with the university, and about Bob's advocacy work with the gay community. In 2002, it was still just the gay community. It has now evolved to represent so much within that community. Bob and Danny's lives were very much different than mine. I learned from them about strength, about how they fought to make their community, my community, better and more accepting. I remember the first time the pride flag was raised in Wolfville. And now we see it being raised in so many communities with parades and pride markets and activities for all ages and abilities, and that fills me with immense appreciation. In 2018, not even 4 years ago, my husband and I were the first same-sex marriage at the Acadia Chapel. It was news to us. Thanks. It was news to us, and it became news everywhere. I'm the extrovert. He certainly is not. It was not an easy week for him. Most of my lived experience has happened because I put myself out there as a positive, friendly advocate and a listener first. My gay days are not even close to being done. In my role as town councillor, I am not shy about who I am, and I didn't make any shifts in my personality when running for this role. I've since seen a positive shift from all levels of government to be more inclusive, to educate more, and supply funding for projects that support our diverse communities, and I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. In many ways, it starts with us in these roles. I strive to be approachable and communicative. I want to learn something new every day. I want to grow and evolve. Diversity and inclusion are, I hate using the expression, hot topics right now, but we are still celebrating firsts in our world. I look forward to the day when we are celebrating the 20ths and the 40ths of something and not just the firsts. I'm going to close with some thank yous because I may never get an opportunity to speak in this capacity again, so bear with me. My friends of 40 years and of 4 minutes, you have all made an impact. So many faces here today have supported me in one way or another, but I'm going to single out someone, and I asked their permission earlier, and that is Councillor Joel Hurdle, who I've known for over 15 years. Joel is very special to me because he is an example of someone who wants to be the change. Joel has never been afraid to ask me in our friendship about things that will make him a better ally, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. Thank you very much. My mom and dad for being patient. You can only imagine having me as a child and waiting for me to find myself, for creating that safe space. Your words, Pat, have touched me more than anything today because I know what it's like to have parents that support you and just wait. They just wait patiently. My nephews and my niece, who are my good luck charms, as well as the next generation of support for those discovering themselves. In them, I know our communities are in good hands. Thanks to my ever-patient husband, who is very much my biggest supporter and one half of the duo that has sometimes been the face of Happy Gay Valley life, and I appreciate everything that he does. Thank you to all municipalities, mayors, councillors, staff, etc., for celebrating love and togetherness and for being the voice and presence for those not ready to speak or to show up. I sleep well at night knowing I'm doing my part to make things better. I am not a fighter. That was done before me, but I will fight if I need to. I'm a thinker and a supporter, and I'm me. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And I've had a really great life so far because I have today. Today is my focus. I make today great, and I hope that tomorrow is great as well. Thank you all very much for being here today. It's meant a lot to me. I want to do this one. I want to do this one. I want to do this one. Our next speaker is the mayor for the County of Kings, and that is Peter Matart, who, once he steps up here, you'll notice I've just recently started dressing. We showed up in the exact same outfit minus the tie, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled we've got to this point. So please welcome with a very big round of applause the mayor for the County of Kings, Peter Matart.
Mike, I just wanted to say that when Mike and I spoke on the phone about what we might wear today, he didn't mention the shorts.
No.
Thank you
It's a
for
good
that.
thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
So everything's been said. And what I'd like you to do, I'm going to take a step over there and get one of those hankies that are there. Because, you know, while I'm gruff and grumble on the outside, I'm really just a marshmallow on the inside. And that's not a confession that I would make anywhere outside this room. What Mike has had to say, what Pat has had to say, what you all had to say have affected me. I want to begin, mostly for the sake of the younger people here, by saying I'm not in my 20s. I'm not young. In fact, I'm old. And I'll tell you what that does in terms of giving a person perspective. If you're my age, as the old adage goes, you've seen the worst of things, you've seen the best of things. And when I grew up, as I was growing up, it wasn't so common for gay folks to come out. It wasn't easy by any means. It sure as heck isn't really all that easy today. I experienced as a young person visually, sometimes it was all so subliminal, you know, that it was difficult to identify as a child. But as you grew older, you realized, you know, all the prejudices that existed during your time as you were growing up. The bullying that took place for reasons often associated with one's gender or one's color or one's religion or lack thereof. All of those things mold you as a person as you're growing up. And the importance of the people who are in your home has already been stressed, but it's, if you don't have that support, if it's not a support structure that is one that is affirming, that is one that identifies what's right and what's wrong, then you're going to get lost. And you're going to grow up with the same prejudices that those who raised you had. So what do we take from that? I take from that we all have to be a bit forgiving. We all have to understand that people come to life with certain opinions and prejudices that aren't their fault, that need to be corrected, but they need to be corrected as gently, while forcefully, as gently as we can correct them. but don't ever hesitate to correct. Just be kind while you're correct. And people will be more accepting of that, and they'll become an ally. So my name is Peter Matart. I identify as he, him, and hopefully as an ally. So I've come to say a few words. My first thought was to invite you all to stand up so you get the circulation going in your rear ends again, but perhaps we won't do that. And I'll just carry on and hopefully finish as quickly as I can. I've had a lot of my speech taken away because I was going to thank all the people from all the organizations that were here, but you've already been thanked at least twice and identified. So I'm not going to do that other than to give a wholesale welcome to you. Welcome to our house, the house of the people of the King's Region. So let's start with this. We're all members of one humanity. But let's also acknowledge our shortcomings. Our history has shown us that we fear that which we don't understand. And then we turn against what we fear simply because we don't understand it. And we ostracize it. We shame it. We even criminalize it in some instances. In short, we're a cowardly lot. I believe that there was a time we would have ostracized and criminalized the night itself if we hadn't slept through it all. Because we fear the dark at some point in our lives. So how fortunate we are that today much of the world recognizes that these fears are unfounded, that we are indeed all one humanity, and that every person who has been historically or continues to be marginalized in our society needs allies. How else do we make it through? This month of June has been set aside to emphasize the value of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. And I want you to tell you I practiced that. I did, and I was so grateful that you stumbled on it the first time, because I'll stumble on it again before I'm finished. And you added a letter, and I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. But how fortunate we are that the world is evolving in this respect, and that every person who has been historically or continues to be marginalized in our society, we need to know, we need to be an ally. So this month of June has been set aside specifically to emphasize the value of this community and to awaken within us the imperative that if discrimination and marginalization are to be fully defeated, we must all become allies. So did you listen to the words of the Pride anthem? Because I looked them up and I thought, what's the tune? I don't, and I listened to it here. It's lovely. I think it's great. I'm so confused, with the African Nova Scotian anthem and the Pride anthem. They're so great, but I'm tunefully challenged. So the next time I'm gonna try very hard to both learn the words and learn the tunes themselves. But the words of that anthem. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know there is a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm going to shed a flood. I'm going to send a flood. I'm going to drown them out. I am brave. I am bruised. I am whom I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, because here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Terrific stuff. I don't know who wrote it. I need to know. Some persons in our society are nurturing, tolerant, and enabling. God bless them. Some are aggressive and seek positions of authority over others, an authority that can be used for good or not. Some seek a form of power or recognition by manufacturing narratives around othering. Those voices need to be answered. And it's allies who are best positioned to do so. Until recently, the greatest influences in society, in my view, have been the class system, government, and religion. We're in danger of reverting to our old habits if good people are not stepping forward. Tolerance, even democratic institutions are under pressure today. We've undergone rapid change with the introduction of the World Wide Web. As useful as it has been to us, we can look up anything and get an answer, hopefully the right one, on the World Wide Web, but it's also introduced social media. Good heavens. What has social media done to the reasoned discussion that people in this room would have? Not one person in this room would say many of the things that I've seen said on social media with impunity and anonymity. It's unacceptable in today's society. And I don't know what we're going to do about it. It's become a snake pit in which lurks bullies, bots, designed to diminish voices of reason and logical discourse and push false narratives as truths, all the while having that anonymity. So I've told you I've seen the worst and I've seen the best of people. While social media has the capacity to be either an ally or a foe, we can't blame it for our historic prejudices. One unbelievable human trait is the constant search for a reason to find some other human who will be perceived as lesser than you or me. Some psyches have a need for this, or will accept it when it's offered, notwithstanding its impact on their fellow humans. Should we question our capacity for discrimination? Do you really think, and this is coming from the old guy, do you really think that discrimination is new? Think, looking to our dark side, our worst side, think Black slavery, the class and the caste systems, Japanese Canadians during the Second World War, the Asian community during the COVID situation, of all things, to turn on the Asian community because we're suffering from a disease. During the COVID-19 outbreaks, especially south of our border, but even here in Canada, Indigenous peoples marginalized and oppressed, institutionalization of the mentally and physically challenged, suppression of women's rights, criminalization of the gay community. To think that we had to change bylaws in the town of Truro to allow Blacks to enter after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. To think that we had to change the criminal code to make the practice of the gay communities legal. To think that we would put people in jail for that type of thing. To think that unwed mothers would be stuck in homes and their babies buried out back in butter boxes. We're not kind as a race, the human race. We have to be intentional in our kindness. We have to be intentional in our allyship to all of those that others would turn to and say, they're different, and I'm going to take advantage of them, or I'm going to marginalize them, or I'm going to ostracize them, or I'm going to criminalize them. These are examples of othering, just as bullying in school is. The bullying takes place because someone wants power over someone else, and they see someone who has what in their eyes is a deficiency that they can monopolize on and gather other people around them to their cause. We have no time for that. We must march to the beat that we drum. In the Municipality of Kings, we recommit our pledge to be a community of communities where all people belong. You've heard that phrase today several times, and I want to leave you with that phrase, because this is who we want to be. This is who we must be. This is who we want to be seen to be as people who embrace all communities and who make a welcoming, safe place to live for all communities. So upon the unanimous resolution of the Municipal Council of this municipality, I do formally now proclaim this month of June 2022 to be Pride Month in the Municipality of Kings. And I want to thank you all so much for coming and participating with us today. You've been very, very patient, especially during the last speaker. Am I the last speaker?
Yes.
No, you're not coming back.
Yes, we are coming back.
No, you can't come back. No. I want to thank our hosts. I want to thank Anisha Gordon and her team. See, you're not getting soft. Come on up, Mike. Emily. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
We're so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
We really are. We really are. Before we wrap up, we are going to give closing remarks now and then head outside for flag raising. I wanted to give a special shout out to our youngest member of the audience, Blake, who's only, how old are you, Blake? 4, who has shown the patience of an absolute angel today. And also to the students here from Central Kings, which is, in my humble opinion, the best high school. I shouldn't say that,
No.
but I graduated from there. So I'm a proud alumni and I'm proud to see you all in the audience today. And we would love to invite you up to take a picture with the mayor in front of the backdrop, if you'd like, at the end here. We really appreciate you folks coming and spending your day with us, or your morning. So in closing, thank you for being here. I am a mom of 3 beautiful children, and I often feel I can do so much within our house, within the way we operate as a family, to encourage them to be whoever they are and to facilitate, provide that safe space for them to flourish and be whoever they want to be. But if they go out into the wider world and that support and that community isn't there to help them find that identity, then some of my work is lost. And so that's where you folks come in. And it's so important to carry that forward, to be that community, to do the work, because as MLA Irving put it, progress can be undone. And we are not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen to everyone who identifies as a member of the queer community, all of our children who are still figuring it out. So we will work every day to make this a place where everyone belongs, everyone feels welcome, and everyone feels love.
And safe. And safe.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Who wants to go raise a flag with me?
Woo!
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, let's meet out front and we'll get that done. Thank you very much, everyone.